So my Harri unboxing did very badly. My Nightrose video, it's alright. But I did say I was gonna cover this deck, so remember, all roads lead to you. Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm Mr. here. Today I am back to cover Magician Harri in DivineZ. And because nobody actually believes this deck works, I waited till Harri has 2 WGP tops total to talk about this deck. So that's why the video is delayed. You're all welcome. Today we are going to talk about Harri. There are a few different ways to build this deck, but they don't differ in terms of the playstyle, they differ in terms of the ways you achieve the end goal. The end goal is exactly the same: multiple attacks, beat him to death, draw a lot of cards, which is all things Nightrose cannot do. Surprise! So we are going to talk about it real quick. Just to segue right now, link in the description for my DivineZ Explain video, my Nightrose Encyclopedia, and my Nightrose deck profile, just because I've already covered it. So today is strictly just Harri, so yeah. Honestly though, this deck is not that expensive, but there are a few cards that if you bought them earlier from previous Pale Moon decks, you do benefit quite a lot. But yeah, that's really about all I can say. Okay, let's talk about the right line. It's the wrong crest. Our grade 0 is Happiness Collector. You kind of have to play this one. I do wish I could play Chrono Dren, but my lawyers have informed me I can't. The grade 1 is Betty. Betty, when you ride a pawn, you draw a card, and then if you do, you get a Harri Crest. I'll go through the Harri Crest in a bit. The grade 2 is Jacqueline. Jacqueline will rode upon by Harri, Soul Blast 1. And then if you do look at top 7 cards of your deck, choose 2 cards with 2 different cards. They are normal units, 1 to the soul, 1 to the hand. That's nice. Is a +1. It rewards you from riding cards. Non-Sentinel, that's right, so don't try it. And you also can't put order cards into the soul or hand, so you can't play Walk in the Dark, you can't move your ladder inside, that kind of sucks. And then when this unit attacks, you can give it 5, yeah, cool. You know who else gains 5 when it attacks? Dragon Empire. Harri, this is the same Harri from 2015. No, 2016, yes. You know the skills, but I will read it to you because there's actually a hidden interaction you need to know. Magia, when a unit tries to talk this unit, count +1, soul charge 1, call a card from the soul, it gains 5,000 power, and end of turn most of the soul, right? So basically, it is a free net 0, but it can train anything from the soul, and it gives you soul charge 1, which means you still have soul usage. It's not that bad. Second skill is GB2, when this unit attacks, choose a card from your soul, call it to the Vanguard circle, and it gains 5, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So this basically means that even if you do not strike with Harri, as long as you achieve your first setup strike with GB2, a la, you know, this guy, you basically get a infinite 4 attacks at 0 cost. Yeah, Nightrose can't do that. Yeah, that's just what I wanted to say. So remember, if you are actually playing a stall game with Harri, you can actually use this GB2 pretty reliably, but it's by no means the win con. The win con is obviously Dragon Masquerade Harri, but unlike Nightrose, who is hard banked on seeing 1 strike or bust, you can actually just multi-attack and do it yourself. Moving on to our Crest. This is our Harri Crest. And then, of course, this is our energy generator. I'm doing the 2 Crests separately because unlike the previous Nightrose Encyclopedia, I actually covered all of the right deck cards as well as the Deckset cards inside the, inside the encyclopedia, so I kind of covered it all together. In this case though, I didn't, so I have to talk about the crest one by one. The crest is your crest, EB7 draw, EB3, stuff like that. You already know. Most of our energy in Harri, we are using it to loop specifically 1 card and 1 card alone, and that is of course Clockwise. Clockwise, you have heard about in Chrono Jet, you will see next time in Odium. Yeah, so this is a very important card on this channel, just remember that. At terms for Harri Crest is the normal strike Deckset Crest. You already know it pretty well. But the difference for the Harri Crest is that at the end of the turn, GB2, if 2 or more of your cards have moved to the soul distance from your Vanguard circle, you can draw a card. So while Harri doesn't get any counter charge or anything like that, it does give you a draw per turn. That's really good because this deck builds a board for temporary plus. It mirages, it disappears, and then you draw. This means Harri has a pretty good matchup against control decks if you time your Magia right, but if you don't, then eat shit, I guess. And because we've talked about the Crest, now we can talk about the G-Zone first. I believe that in talking about modern strike deck sets, you really do need to look at the G-Zone first. But I have good news for you guys, you don't have to worry about Chronos Command in this deck. This is Lunatic, right?
Yes, Lunatic.
Lunatic Dragon, he's basically the setup strike, so you play it for free cost. You look at the top 5 cards of your deck, choose 1 from among them, move into the soul, And then after that, you shuffle the deck, and then you can choose a card from your soul and call it to the Vanguard circle. At the end of the turn, it has to move back to the soul. It's basically Magia. It's a free +1, it's a board builder. You generally always use this in the first strike, but other than that, you don't want to never ever again go into this card because it does you nothing on the offensive front. I'd rather you either stay on Harri or strike into Dragon Masquerade Harri. Dragon Masquerade Harri is your ultimate strike, which means you do actually need to discard a card of the same name, a la Harri, okay? And then after that, when this unit attacks, Counter Blast 1. I need to pick the non-foil version so I can read. Counter Blast 1, choose 2 of your rearguards, move them to the soul. When this unit attacks, choose up to 2 cards with different name, call them to rearguard circles. Then choose 2 of your opponent's rearguards and move them to the soul. At the end of the turn, the cards caught by this effect move back to the soul, right?
Correct.
So, while Dragon Masquerade Harri doesn't give power or crit like Nightrose does, it doesn't need to. And that's because a lot of the power comes from the deck itself. A lot of the rearguards just gain power by themselves for absolute free, so you don't worry about it. Harri also keeping his spot remove skill for 2 means that he can actually compete at a very high meta. Spot removal, as you know, in a competitive setting is really good. So it basically just turns Harri into a pocket blade master every turn. It's pretty effective if you ask me, but you know, I know some people do complain about this card for a lot of different reasons. To me, if you're playing Harri, you've got to accept what you have in life. If you don't want to play this deck, just play Cristianos. It's a way better deck. Moving on to our great trees. Our great trees, we obviously have Harri in the right deck. And then, sorry, my cards are really sticky. The guy who rented this deck, he's doing a lot of things here. And then we also have 3 other Harri as well. So that basically is 4 Harri total. I know a lot of people would not want me to play 4 Harri total, but Harri, not only is he a very breedable guy for the gay people, but he's also Persona Strike. So you know, you gotta do the thing. And then the rest of our great trees is 1 copy of Shout Applause, and then 4 copies of Manticore. Okay, so Harri, as you know, is for the Persona Strike, so that's basically it. You can play, I think, just 2 copies of Harri in the main deck. I think it's fine. But realistically speaking, if you just play more of it, you're more likely to see it. And in this deck, we play very little copies of Masquerade Bunny, so that's the other drawback. And then, of course, we also have 1 Shout Applause and 4 5 Manticore. We are playing Shout Applause as a tech card because we actually have a way to hyper filter the great trees into the soul, which we'll go through in a bit. Shout Applause, very simple skill. It is a modern Pale Moon card. So very similar to my friends Spark Spy, Platinum Main Stallion. They all bear their modern clans even though they are not part of them. Same with Shout Applause. Shout Applause can count itself as a Pale Moon no matter what, as long as your Vanguard is Pale Moon. When placed on a Vanguard circle and your Vanguard is a Pale Moon, choose a card from your drop, move it to the soul. So basically this invalidates the need for Sargon. As long as you can loot Shout Applause, any of the cards you lose along the way, go back to the soul. Very effective, very free. The second skill is that when this unit attacks,
when this unit, when 2 or more cards are moved from, when any card is put into your soul,
yes,
this unit gains 10,000 power. If your opponent's grade 3, if it's not grade 3, it gets 5,000 power.
And it's a con skill. So it's either 18 or 23k beater, correct? And then with the Crests, because you know Crests is a thing in his deck, it will obviously multiply and it will get even bigger. So Shout Applause is just another beater in the deck, but because it's grade 3, you can Omni train it very well, so that's why we played at 1. Manticore is the MVP of this deck. It puts Nightstorm into the retirement home. It makes Chronojet look like a very poor man, but Chrono's command will save you, surely. The skill of Manticore is that it's your strike fodder, so you can discard it for the cost of strike. And then if your Vanguard is a great creator Harri, if you discard it for strike, you can draw a card. It's the Vanguard 0 experience. And then the second skill is that when this unit attacks GB1 Magia, you can Counter Blast 1 and move it to the sword and ability attacks. Choose a card with a different name. Call it to a rearguard circle if it's the first time a card is being called out from the soul during the battle phase. And then if you do, the card that was called moves back to the soul end of the turn. Basically, if you are familiar with Fate Rider, if you're familiar with Driver, if you're familiar with Mujin Lord, this is basically all their first strike skills put into 1 card on the main deck, which is why Harri is pretty busted in my opinion, because it basically has 3 strikes if you think about it. Manticore is a card you absolutely need to see as part of your game plan. You absolutely need it around the soul, and because it's grade 3, it is very easily trained into the soul at a virtually 100% consistency rate, which we will see later. And by later, I mean now. Our grade 2s, we play a copy of Jacqueline in the right deck. You already know her. You don't need to play another Jacqueline in the main deck, so don't worry about that. We play 4 copies of Steam Performer Taupe. This is a very important card. It has been reprinted in Festival 2024, so don't worry about that. We play 3, right? 3 copies of Onetta. And 1 copy of Ignite the Sky. And then we play 3 copies of Darkside Princess. So that's basically about it for all our grade 2s. As you can tell, it kind of builds itself out of the box in a sense, but not really, so I'll explain slowly as we go along. Darkside Princess is another one of our beat sticks. Her skill is that at the other boundaries you attacks, you can move her to the soul, so that basically means, you know, you can clear out pretty easily and you can avoid control. It is, yeah, that skill is not locked to GB or anything, so you can even use this to early rush Binding Maya at 0 consequence, which is very good. Very good. Second skill is GB1, where this unit is placed on the Vanguard circle. If your Vanguard is a Great Tree or Greater Harri, this unit gains 10,000 power. If there are 2 or more cards face up in the generation zone, this unit gains 15 instead of 10. So on your first strike, it's a 20k beater. On your second strike, it's a 25k beater. With the crest, it will jump from 30 to 40k. Very effective card. Very effective. So just play the 3 off. I know a lot of people like Servant for Kratia, but the thing about Servant for Kratia is that it does not hit the same number intervals, and not only that, it kind of also does see some issues, like, you know, it doesn't avoid removal, but this guy does. Unite the Sky, I've talked about Unite the Sky in my Nightrose deck profile, and I stand by that for this deck profile as well. Unite the Sky is pretty effective because if you play multiple copies of the Vanguard, you can use it to, you know, gain power and shield and all that. And because this is a Persona Strike deck, you tend to discard a lot of your Great Trees a lot of the time. Not only that though, but if you use this as a cycle fodder, you can also just draw 1 for energy, which is always not bad. Realistically, you can play a lot of cards in this slot. You can play Walk in the Dark, you can play Twin Cast, you can play even the Transfer, but I believe it's up to you depending on what you want. The only Regalis piece I say is not fair game is Ladder. Just don't play Ladder. I've been talking a lot about the Great Trees, and that's because of Steam Performer Taupe. Steam Performer Taupe is a hidden MVP of this deck. It is a card you absolutely need to own for Pale Moon, in my opinion, because it is just that flexible. Taupe, as long as it's moved into the soul by any card effect or anything, by any effect, you can bind this card, choose a Great Tree from your deck, and just put it into your soul.
Deck or drop.
Deck or drop. So you can put in your Manticore, you can put in your Shout Applause, you can put in your Walk in the Dark, you can put in your Harry, you can put in anything you want, really. And it's just that effective. It doesn't even need to specify Pale Moon, it's just any Great Tree. So this is the card that will scale further and further and further beyond, so definitely it is worth to play her. Realistically though, Taupe just makes your deck become a 46 card deck because it will always just thin the deck no matter what. The downside of Taupe is that, you know, oh yeah, that's my 4th copy of Renata. Yeah, I play 4. So the downside of Taupe is that, realistically speaking, it's just a 10k vanilla, so if you draw her and stuff, it's not that good. But if you can discard her and move into the soul, she will just get her value back, no worries. Onetta is the last card in this deck, and one of the most important grade 2s in my opinion. She's basically Philander. If you know how much I love Philander from the Nightrose deck profile, this is basically her. When placed on a regular circle, if you have the Harri Crests, top 5, add a card from them into the soul, shuffle the deck.
The way that has to be placed from hand.
From hand. So thank God it's placed from hand, it really keeps the Philander trait. If you could call this from soul, that would be really devastating in my opinion. But realistically speaking, it's just really good for the grade 2 game. It's really good for the early aggro. I really have no complaints because of how free it is. The second skill is that when you put on the Guardian Circle, if you have a Harri Crest, Soul Charge 1. Yeah, so if you just intercept with her, you can Soul Charge, right? Correct. So that means you can basically guard with her. You can throw her on the board very quickly for 0 expense. So with Onetta and with my 4 copies of Taupe, for 4, that basically turns Harri into a 42 card deck. That's insane. The amount of deck thinning, that's insane. That's a virtual nightmare right there. It's a nightmare circus right there. Alright, our great ones. We obviously have Betty in the right deck. I've already talked about her before, so no surprise there, guys. And then we have... Let me take out all the great ones first, slowly. 3 clockwise, 2 Masquerade Bunny, 2 QT Palatrupa, 2 Gugu Ram, 1 Dark Stage Cat, and 4 Perfect. So we are not playing a lot of great ones like a lot of the other Harri lists online are, but I think it's relatively flexible in terms of how many and what you play. It's just that the card choices you make are very important. Obviously PGs are PGs, you need to stay alive. Gung Ram is here because he's a quick soul charge 1. Other than that though, he's an 8k you can throw on the board at low expense, and if you have a lot of soul, you can just soul blast 3 to draw 1. But you are not reliant on this for advantage. You can absolutely never use this skill, it's fine. It's just because it's a very fast grade 1 you throw on the board. It helps a lot, especially for the early gaming. QT Palatulupa is your main way to convert your early game rush boards into your late game combo boards. When placed on the rearguard circle, if you have a Harri Crest, no, if you have a greater Harri Vanguard, choose a card from your rearguard circle, move it to the soul, choose a card from your soul of a different name, call it to the rearguard circle, at the end of the turn, you move it back to the soul. So QT Paratrooper technically is a -1, but it resets all your Magia skills very effectively and at no cost. So the only thing is that while she's a grade 1 vanilla by herself, she can reset your board. A lot of your early rush pieces you call early, you can just swap them in and out for your late game combo pieces that you filtered out. It's very effective. Masquerade Bunny, as you know, she's just your strike fodder, but you know, you can discard her to look for a copy of Harri, which is good because if you have Harris in your drop, Harris in your deck, you can just thin them out. It is nice to have because you want a Persona strike. Because you want a Persona / ultimate strike, that is why Clockwise has seeked employment in this deck. Clockwise, Energy Blast 3, when this card is in your drop zone or your rearguard circle, you can remove him with Energy Blast 3. Choose a card that you just discarded, add it back to your hand, so you can loop back anything, including your Manticores, your Harri. It is very effective in doing that. And when placed on the rearguard circle, if your Vanguard's of the same grade as your opponent's Vanguard, you can soul charge 1. This unit gains 2k. This helps you especially for your grade 2 gaming, as a lot of strike deck sets do. But even if you don't do that, you can just have it moved into the soul with Manticore, with QT Paratrooper, Soul Blast out Gung Ram, put it into the soul, and then you can set up your strikes there and then. Again, like I mentioned with Farmja in my previous Nightrose deck profile, what makes the Festival Cyclers with energy so effective is that with just 3 energy, you can loop back your alternate strike, but every turn, you actually do gain 3 energy. So that means you can constantly just net 0 at very low cost. If you go to 9 energy during your first strike, you EB7 to draw, you go to 5 energy, and then you can just loop 5 to 2, 5 to 2, 5 to 2. That's the main reason why I honestly will always support the energy cyclers for Festival, especially in the context of strike deck sets. They just work with energy so well that if you are willing to invest a bit of pre-planning, it makes it so damn worth it. And last but not least, our grade zeros. We obviously play Happiness Collector, as I mentioned before. It's already in the right deck. You should know her. I've talked about it previously. We play Galamangit. Galamangit is our over trigger. We choose this one because of the Force 1, Force 2. If you rip it in the early game, you're just a world class card fighter. But if not, you know, you can just get a 10k and a crit. It's really just that good. We play 3 draw because we need our pieces, 4 heal because we want to stay alive, and the rest are all crits. Doesn't matter what crit, you can just play whatever crit you want. And yeah, that wraps up my deck profile for Masked Magician Harri. Honestly though, I am very happy to cover this deck. I will always say that Chrono Jet is my favorite Dark Stage Strike deck set, but that's just because I'm a 2014 kid, so realistically speaking, I will never betray him. However, I do think Harri has done enough to substantiate himself away from Chrono Jet. I do think that, you know, if you're looking for a strike deck set that's not too expensive, that doesn't need too many generics, I definitely think Harri is someone you consider. Nightrose needs about $1,000 worth of generics, and Chrono Jet is just generics. Shiranui is dead, thank the Lord. Messiah is also just another pile of generics if you think about it too hard. Harri is the only one that realistically maintains its own agenda. Until the Blade Master strike deck set, then you will hear me change my opinion again. Other than that though, this deck is definitely tier 1.5 or tier 2. I don't think this is good enough to kill like the highest meta of the deck, the highest meta in the game, such like Odium. But you know, you can actually have quite a lot of fun playing this deck, and it rewards you for building your deck according to the meta. If you play more aggressively in the early game, more combo in the late game, depending on your locals, I definitely think this deck is worth your time. But a lot of people will not share my agreement because Harri is just not as popular. I don't think you need to realize that Nightrose is still much more popular, but that's mainly because of the sex appeal, or because, you know, Asian women. I don't know, but don't sleep on Harri is definitely my only takeaway from this video, because this deck can combo very hard if your opponent has spent time practicing. But if he's never spent time practicing, then he's no threat. Just kill him with Equilibra. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you all next time. Take care. Say something. You want to say something?
Harry, I hate you.
Magia.